We're gonna do a final question. It's gonna be to Mr. Davis and Mr. Kennedy because of your unique backgrounds in this. And then all four of you are gonna have a chance to do sort of final remarks. And your final remarks, will be real brief, but you have to be positive and optimistic. Because this crowd needs
Lisa doesn't have any problem with that.
Yeah.
She's the most optimistic person I've ever met.
But for a real couple different questions that came in about political rhetoric and violent political rhetoric and whether you're worried about it. We don't have to go into the details of Mr. Kennedy's family. It's obvious. Everyone knows the history there. And Mr. Davis, you were on the baseball team in 2017 when the shooter arrived, and Mike Micah is one of your close friends. Can you talk about political rhetoric and what Congress can do to help, to heal?
Well, thank you, Paul. And yes, we've got to do better. And that's one of the reasons why we're all here. It's easy to spend time back home, travel your district, talk to your constituents, fill in the days with meetings, visits. But to be able to come halfway across the country like we are today and come to Joe's district with such a history of the Kennedy family, and we all know the history of the Kennedy family with violence, and to be able to talk here at the Kennedy Center about civility and bipartisanship, this right here, ladies and gentlemen, is how you stop the political rhetoric from getting to the point that his family has witnessed and that I witnessed. It's going to take events like this, but it's going to take courage, and it's going to take both sides. Look, everybody probably walked in here with their own political decisions already made up, probably about many of us. But in the end, I don't want what happened to me and to my friends on that baseball field one morning in Virginia a year and a half ago to happen to anyone. When I see the tragedies that have happened since then at our schools, I will tell you what hurts me the most is now I know some of these teenagers are going to have to wake up and live with the same memories that I wake up with and live with. And I'm almost 50. I think I'm better aged and experienced to handle those more so than a teenager. And as a father of teenagers, it just breaks my heart to know that somebody has to go through those same things. But all we can do is stand up and call out when people use rhetoric that leads to the violent acts that we've seen in our nation's history and what I experienced. What a lot of folks don't know, and it's not reported a lot, is that while the gunman was firing at us, he was screaming healthcare. A political difference of opinion led this obviously mentally challenged individual to come and think that the way he solved that problem was trying to kill Republican members of Congress. That can't be tolerated, and we should never have a political litmus test on rhetoric. We all need to come together as Americans, and I said that immediately after the shooting when I went to the media and said, this has got to stop. The heated rhetoric that we've seen on all sides has got to be toned down, and we've got to have more events like this. We've got to have civility and discussions like this, and I hope you leave here today knowing that what we're saying here is not an act. We truly do like each other. We truly do have the friendships that lead to good legislative successes. And one of the best memories I have is finally getting my phone back that morning and seeing the many friends I had try to text me, try to call me, and it wasn't just Republican friends. They were some of my best friends in Congress who happened to be on the other side of the aisle wondering, how are you doing? That's what Congress is about. Tonight is what Congress is about, not what you see in the 24-hour news cycle. Spread the message when you leave here tonight.
I don't have a whole lot to add to that. Obviously, Rodney's right. The only thing that I do think is worth pointing out, oftentimes this conversation gets back into a who started it, or who's got the loudest microphone, or looking at the latest example. And the way this is going to get addressed, I cannot help what anybody else is going to say. I cannot help what anybody else is going to tweet. I cannot help how anybody else is going to address a certain circumstance. What all of us can do is decide how we are going to respond to that. And for folks on the left that will say, yeah, but, and point, look, I might agree with you, but we can't control that. What we can control is how every single one of us is going to respond to the stimulus of getting pulled into that argument, getting pulled into that tweet, getting pulled into that post, getting pulled into responding in a heated way to rhetoric that comes at you live on an interview. And then how we as a society decide to consume that snippet. And it is an awful lot to ask for all of us to try to choose to have that additional level of discipline, of restraint, of just to pull back, because these are political debates and they are passionate and there are real consequences to them on healthcare and immigration and climate change and LGBT rights and all of them. And people are affected by these policies for better and worse. And so I understand that's where it comes from. But we have also crossed the line where people are also getting hurt. And that's not okay. And at a certain point, every one of us can do better. Every one of us can decide whether you're going to retweet something, whether you're going to repost something, whether you're going to like something. And on the one hand, that's somewhat unrealistic. On the other hand, I do think that there's that test for an American public to say, do we want to keep going down this direction or not? And I think if there's enough people that say no, we'll be all the better for it.
No, actually, let's end with each of you answering that same question, that you two, and then because your heads are both nodding at the same points that each of them were talking about, and I think this is the uplifting thing to go out on.
Yeah, absolutely, and as you can tell, Joe and I, we have political differences, but we're good friends. And it's okay to agree to disagree, but when you disagree with anger, something's wrong there. My wife and I, we've been married 21 years, as I said, and we got 5 wonderful kids, and we've had arguments, believe it or not. I mean, I know I seem to be perfect, but I'm not. And so I apologize often, and she says thank you. But at the end of the day, even with those arguments, we never allow hatred to enter into our marriage, and that's why our marriage has survived. And this country has a history of having disagreements politically, but we're allowing hatred to get into the conversation, and that scares the living daylights out of me, because our country cannot survive. It's just not possible. Through this whole conversation, I have sat back multiple times and said that it's okay that we represent different districts. It's okay that we have different views. That doesn't mean that any of us love this country any more or any less. We all think that flag, oh glory, that flies over the Capitol is the most beautiful flag in the world. And it's an honor to put my hand and pledge allegiance to it. And we feel that way because we're having this conversation because we live in America. And we get an opportunity to do that, but we lose perspectives when it comes to politics. I mean, we've been taught our whole life to embrace someone else's point of view, except when it comes to politics. When you don't agree with me with politics, you're an idiot. Well, that's not right. That contradicts everything that we've been taught. We are a diverse country and a diverse group of people. And that's wonderful. But we're having a farther divide on politics because, honestly, I feel like we're not including more and more people. How many of you guys wake up every single morning and say, I cannot wait until I get in an argument today? But isn't that what politics is? I have my constituents say, we have Fox playing in every TV in our house. I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. It's the same thing when we have CNN playing or MSNBC. I'm like, I turn off news in my house. Sometimes I don't want to be depressed. I want to believe that everybody likes me. And the world is great. Joe, you like me? Sometimes? But at the same time, guys, we need to bring laughter into politics and the debate too. We need to show more of this, that we can get along. We can agree to disagree, but we all are looking for the same goal, and it's to make this country as best as we can for the generation coming behind us. We might have different opinions on how to get there, which is awesome. But let's not lose the end goal, because it's in sight. We're all going to pass the torch at some time.
All right, final word, Congressman.
Final words. First of all, thank you. Thank you for everyone for coming out. Thank you for the opportunity to be with my colleagues. I hope this was uplifting for you as it was for me. My colleagues know that the way that I got into this was through the tragic passing of my husband, who ruptured his Achilles tendon, and at the age of 52, blood clots traveled to his heart and lungs, and he passed. And it changed me. It colors how I see the world. It colors how I go to Congress. And what it taught me is that we are on this planet to love. Love. That's what this is all about. And so for me, even when I came in and I saw Shirley Chisholm, when I was sworn in, I wanted it to be special. I wanted to remember that day. And at first, I was going to wear what Shirley Chisholm wore, but it's a really crazy-looking 1970s outfit. I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. But my sister had done a lot of research on our family and found a voter card during Reconstruction that allowed our great-great-great-grandfather to have the right to vote. Yeah. He was a slave in Georgia. And we took that card and we turned it into a scarf. And I carry this with me. The X is down there because he couldn't write his name. And I carry it to remember where we have come from as a country, who we are. Native born, sons and daughters of people who traveled on boats, people who came here against their will but built this country. We, the people, we did this. We overcame slavery. We can overcome these times. It's about legacy. Like they said in the Hamilton in the play, legacy is planting seeds in a garden you may never see. Ted Kennedy planted seeds, and we see them today. It's our turn. It's our turn. It's our turn, right? It's our turn. Legacy. It's our turn.